Let's touch a topic that is not controversial at all. Donald Trump not bombing Iran. Now, a lot of people expected it was going to happen on the 16th because I guess the first Ayatollah stepped down on January 16th, like 30 years ago, I guess. So this date is very important to these people. And it looks like I'm seeing on the Israel firsters on Twitter getting mad that Trump hasn't done anything yet. So I guess, we can just go around the room. I think that if we start a war with Iran, it's probably going to be a big clusterfuck and it's going to cause us a bunch of problems. So I'm obviously... I'm a conflict interventionist. I don't want to go and fight these wars for other countries. But, I'd like to see maybe MAGA Tate wants to freaking blow up the Ayatollah.
No, I do not want war with Iran. I think it would be a quagmire. Again, Venezuela, the goals were clear. The outcomes were clear even before the operation happened.
What about the argument that Maduro actually surrendered? Have you heard that conspiracy? Is that Maduro had surrendered and was going to turn himself in?
Well, I mean, probably because he knew that he knew what we were capable of, and he looked around and he saw that the people guarding him were fat retards.
That's
so
what
he
Saddam
knew
was
that
saying.
was probably the best decision possible was to give himself up.
Saddam had given himself up too, but they were like, "We don't want you. We want the country."
Yeah, I'm just very allergic to intervention in the Middle East.
What about bombing? What about if he bombed?
I just don't want to get involved
on the ground,
in Iran.
but bombed. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
I don't
fine
want to
with
get
that.
involved in Iran. It's just a mess. Again, the
You want to
interest.
bomb Iran?
I didn't say I want to. I said I'm fine. There's a difference between I'm not pro intervention in Iran, but if they did, I wouldn't lose any sleep over
I
it.
get frustrated. Tate's too young for this, but there's a thing called the PNAC, Project for a New American Century, where they actually wrote a whole doctrine about how they're going to take the 7 biggest threats to Israel in the Middle East, and Iran is the last country on that list. And we went there and we destabilized all these countries. We basically went to Afghanistan, and not only do you say Donald Trump is killing all these people because they have drugs, but in Afghanistan, we actually protected the poppy fields so that we didn't mess up their economy of selling heroin. So obviously that's a lie. Obviously the government does want to sell drugs. I think the Iran-Contra, the government got caught shipping in cocaine, trading them
But
to
it wasn't
Nicaragua.
about cocaine.
Well, they were giving Nicaraguans guns, and then we were taking the cocaine and
It was
selling
about fighting.
it.
It was about fighting the communists.
Whatever. I'm saying we were flying into Mena, Arkansas, and then Hillary Clinton, 2 boys died on a train track, and they said they smoked weed and fell asleep on it, and she covered all that up. My point is, if you look at drugs, they don't care about drugs. That's all a lie. So, just America is not. We say we're so perfect. I don't know. I think we got a lot of skeletons in our closet.
On your question, you said you're fine with bombing Iran. So are you fine with Iran bombing U.S. military sites in the GCC countries?
Why would I be fine with that? That's a ridiculous.
So why are you fine with it first?
No. I'm an American.
Yeah.
And I like America, so
And
I'm
you
on
like
America.
bombing people.
I'm on
You like killing
America's.
people.
I'm okay. You can stop putting words in my mouth.
Okay.
I'm on America's side.
How is that on America's side to bomb Iran?
Because if the United States does it, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Because the government does a lot of things that I wouldn't be out there saying we should go do this. There are a lot of things that don't have significant impact on my life, and if it doesn't have a significant impact on my life, I'm actually not going to go out and protest. I'm not the kind of guy that's going to go out and protest.
No,
anyways.
I'm not asking protest. I'm asking because you could be like, look, I don't really agree with it, but it's fine. Or you could be like, look, I'm neutral about it. But when you say you're fine with it,
I said I'm fine with that. So that's a neutral. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. Fine would be neutral. I'm not like we should go do it. In fact, I specifically said that.
Yeah, I think the problem with being neutral on the issue is that what is the consequences? So there's only a couple of possibilities. One possibility is you're okay with America bombing another country, which I'm just like a Muslim, and I think ethically just harming anyone is not a good thing. But okay, I know we've got different morals and ethics. But that being said, separate to that, there's always consequences for your action. So when you bomb Iran, inevitably there's going to be a reaction. Hence why Israel, who knows that if they bomb Iran, and the GCC countries pleaded with Trump to say, look, don't do it. And that's the reason he didn't do it, because they knew that they would be targets. The US military bases would be targets. Israel would be target. And the issue you've got is that basically what it does is cause escalation. Iran isn't a weak country.
I'm not so sure that it actually would have significant consequences. And the reason I say that is because so many people were saying, look, if we strike Iran, if we strike the nuclear sites in Iran, there's going to be all these consequences. There's going to be a ground invasion. There's going to be this. There's going to be that. And so far, we've not seen any of the consequences that people were predicting.
Yeah,
right now, and I'm not saying that there couldn't be things in the future. I'm saying up to this point, we have not seen any of the stuff that the doomsayers were saying.
No, because that's because it seems like that was kind of like an agreed upon situation where
But
America.
before they were saying that all this stuff is definitely going to happen.
Yeah, because it was agreed upon. Because what actually happened in that war was, which is kind of been proven now, because based on the fact that Israel said then already, is it was a 12-day war. Iran dominated Israel. The very first day, Israel hit Iran really well. Iran didn't expect it because they manipulated. Trump told Iran, Israel's not gonna hit you. So he believed him and thought there's gonna be negotiations on Sunday. On the Friday they hit. Iran was doing military exercises. So on the first day they succeeded within Iran, and after that, Iran dominated Israel. Israel didn't have no defense missiles, and this is the reason they don't want to do that. They haven't got enough defense missiles to stop the attacks, and so that's why they went to Trump and made sure that they stopped the war. Trump's way of stopping the war was he had an agreed thing with Iran. In my view, this is our last bit of speculation. Agreed thing with Iran to say, look, you take your whatever nuclear bits you've got in Iran, we're gonna bomb, and then you can do the thing in Qatar, and they both bombed each other, and that's it. That's the end of it. But now Israel's not ready for the war, so I don't think that was escalation. Now Iran doesn't want it because it would be significant escalation. Then it would be GCC attacked, Israel attacked, and Israel and GCC are already.
And I want to make this point because during the 12-day war, why did we bomb Iran? Because they had nuclear capabilities, allegedly. But now you see Donald Trump tweeting that we're going to bomb them to help the protesters. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go destabilize countries because people are protesting, because there's so many countries where that's happening. I mean, in Israel,
United States of America, just someone got killed.
Yeah, we just protested against them. Should another country bomb us for protesting our president?
No,
countries
I
are
don't
not
think-
the same.
I don't think we should bomb Iran.
I'm just
That's
saying.
wrong.
I mean, I guess it's just where it's like, what is the objective? It's kind of like the war in the Middle East. The objective is not clear. So that's where
the
I'm
objective is solely for Israel. If you're America first, listen. Let's be clear on this. It's quite evident from the Middle East that these countries actually want deals with America. As soon as Qatar, UAE got opportunities, they've got deals with the United States of America. Worse than that, they've given United States of America $5 trillion. That's the level of love they actually have for America, and that's actually how they do. Let's be clear on this. Arabs, psychologically, and Asians as well, they look up to the United States of America, and they look up to the white man. And so that's why they'll give $5 trillion to America. And so my point about that is these countries want to make deals. The issue you have is the only reason they're not making deals with America, for example, the only reason Iran has issues with America is because of Israel.
I'm not so sure I agree about Iran. I understand what you're saying about the rest of the Middle East, though, because for the most part, most of the countries in the Middle East do have fairly good relations with the U.S. And I think that a big part of the reason why the U.S. and Iran are hostile is because the U.S. is basically meddling in the Middle East, according to Iran, and Iran would have far greater influence over the other countries in the Middle East if it wasn't for the United States. The Saudi Arabia and Iran don't particularly get along, and there's the Saudis have a significant interest in Iran not getting nuclear weapons. I think that as much as it is true that Israel doesn't want Iran to get nuclear weapons, I also think that there are a lot of the countries
Iran
around
doesn't
that
want
don't.
nuclear weapons in the first place. If they wanted it, they would have got it a very long time ago.
I don't think I agree
And they've
with
got
that.
basically, well, you can not believe it, but we've seen the actions. I think that's one of the failures Iran's done, that they should have got nuclear weapons, but they've not got it because a fatwa made by Ayatollah Khamenei, who basically said that you're not allowed to have nuclear weapons according to their religious law. They're Shia, I'm Sunni, so like I have different religious belief to them. That being said, they're quite clearly saying that they don't believe in nuclear proliferation. In terms of Iran, I do actually think that if Iran didn't have an issue with Israel, because Saudi, Israel, and the United States have always kind of been aligned, they would have good relations with all those countries. And you see that by the fact that, for example, Hamas is Sunni, Iraq is Iran is Shia. So in reality, these people will get along. When it comes to bigger geopolitical situations, will get along. I believe there's only one impeding issue, and that is Israel.
Well, what's the issue exactly?
Israel.
Well, Israel
exists.
wants control of the area. They want to do expansion within the region, and they themselves want to make sure that they don't have existential threat. So they believe that in the future there could be a scenario where maybe these countries could be a threat, and so what they want to do is basically weaken all these countries so they're no longer a threat. It's kind of like psychological damage after what happened according to them for 1,000 years up until the Holocaust, where they think you can't trust the whites and you can't trust Muslims.
It happened after the Holocaust as well, though, because there was the 7-Day War and stuff like that.
What do you mean?
Or when a bunch of countries, the 6-Day War, when a bunch of countries.
Yeah, that was
attacked
Israel. That was again America lying to. So LBJ got on the phone with Nasser. So what happened? The Egyptians didn't want to go to war with Israel. What happened was Nasser, the leader of Egypt, was actually fighting a war in Yemen. He gets on a call with LBJ and he says the Israelis are not going to attack us, are they? Once again, he lies and says, no, they're not. And then they do a blitzkrieg and attack them. So that was Israel again.
Real quick, I just want to bring this up. It's so crazy. These letters from JFK where he was talking, you can look this up, where he was saying that he couldn't believe every single night that Israel was bombing themselves and then calling the
Thank
UK
God we're
to
talking
come
about
fix
JFK.
it. Well, I'm saying it's just kind of weird that they were doing that. You can find the article somewhere else, but in his own notes, he was saying that.
What happened to JFK?
Well, he was shot in the head.
The
but
Jews killed him.
You said the Israelis were bombing themselves.
JFK wrote a note, and he said it.
wrote
We
it.
can find it. And maybe this isn't the good one. Hold on.
They're kind of the masters
Serge,
of
go to-
subterfuge,
yeah.
the Israeli Mossad. But when I look at the Balfour Declaration, the way Israel was set up after World War I and the betrayal of the Arabs, it seems like the liberal economic order's attempt at bulwarking the Suez Canal and controlling trade hegemony in the region. They split up the Soviet Union and took Sevastopol and Black Sea port access away from the Russians on purpose after the fall of the Soviet Union. Like, that's all Israel. It seems like it's just a militarized outpost of the liberal economic order.
Even if it was, which I can see slightly where you're coming from, especially when you look at 67. But then when you look at, for example, what happened to JFK, and then you look at the fact that after that, you basically had a scenario where when the Soviet Union weakened, remember Israel also was working on both sides. They were given U.S. military secrets to the Soviet Union. They were given Soviet Union's secrets to the United States of America. So even in that situation, they weren't an ally. They were actually an impediment. They were going to just go with whichever side did well. But in terms of the Suez Canal, in terms of what you're talking about, I guess that is a decent point. But it became less of an issue over time, which you see when Egypt just basically became part of like the American hegemony.
Well, and this is the quote right here. There were 13 bombs set off my last evening there, all in the Jewish quarter and all set off by Jews. The ironical part is that the Jewish terrorists bombed their own telephone lines and electric connections, the next day frantically phoned up the British to come and fix them up. So that's what we call a false flag attack.
That's Jesse
Well,
Smollett.
wouldn't it be? He said Jewish terrorists. Is that what it says in there?
No, it says set off by Jews. Nothing about terrorists.
Jewish terrorists
terrorists
bomb their own telephone.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess.
So that, I mean, typically, and this might be splitting hairs, but typically terrorists are people that are not part of the government, and false flags are set up by the government.
Well,
So-
we don't know.
well-
I mean, he's just saying. We don't,
Again, like
we
I
don't
said,
know. I know.
I'm
because
only
maybe
splitting
we're arguing
hairs.
semantics,
No,
but-
because the problem is that what you've got is you're right. Like Israel has always been, United States of America has always been kind of linked and or subservient to Israel. Now, there's been-
Subservient.
Yeah, of course.
Always,
No, that's why I said and or.
but always.
No, that's why I said and or.
Well, and or.
As in,
So
either
I mean,
they
because the U.S. was a country for what 150 years before.
No, I said
before-
I said the U.S. and Israel
Mm-hmm.
have always been linked and or. So or being so it's either linked or subservient.
So but you're not. The point that I'm making
Yeah.
is the U.S. existed a long time before
But
Israel.
since 49.
Yeah, I know that. That's
Since
what I said.
Israel
and
got
or.
created.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I said and or. But there were two key incidences I can just think about, which is, for example, the Brits. Do you remember when they bombed the King David Hotel? They called them terrorists then as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously JFK always never had a good relationship with them and always seen them as extremists, as did the Queen of England.
You know, I have kind of this utilitarian take on is supporting Israel and supporting military in the Middle East, because I was really anti-war in Iraq. It was just seemed like nonsense. But now I think, like, if we just pulled out of the Middle East and just said, you're on your own, Iran, take nuclear weapons, I feel like Russia and China would take over the world, take over the Suez Canal. America would become third bitch. And then we would be spending $700 on coffees and speaking Mandarin. So it's like I'm a little more bullish on military authority and control now to protect American religious, republicanism, essentially. Where does your take?
The world can't stand a power vacuum.
position. So I'll just state your position back and tell me if I said it wrong. So your position is that America should subjugate the world so you can have cheaper goods.
And it's beyond me.
Yeah.
It's because freedom of speech, because of gun rights, property rights, these ethics that are inherent in our country, I think is the best on earth or the least worst.
You think that's a good ethic, to subjugate the earth, to murder, kill, and cause mayhem so that you can have cheaper coffee? I know I'm kind of being reductive in what I'm saying,
you're
but
doing
yeah.
extreme.
Being
Yeah,
incredibly
I
Well,
do
come
think
on.
America
Well,
should
let me answer.
behave like an empire.
Let me
I do
answer.
agree with that.
But there's different ways an empire.
Yes,
so
there
we've
are.
had,
You don't have
So
to go
now
can
you've
be-
changed
let me
it, because
answer that.
initially you were like they should kill and bomb and do all these terrible things. Then he says, well, like they should behave like an empire, and then you're like, okay, well, there's different ways to do it.
yeah,
so
there is.
so the way that you set up the question is,
No, but there
should
is-
they be the worst empire imaginable?
But that's what they
so
mean.
that way you
No,
can
but-
do this.
no, but
No,
listen,
absolutely
no,
not.
no,
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 absolutely
no,
not.
no.
The United States is not the worst ever
listen.
empire imaginable.
No, no.
If
No, I didn't-
China or Russia were in actual
How
like
is-
where the
how is China
global
expanding?
power.
How is China
I'm
expanding
not
right now?
saying they are. I said if they
No,
were,
they
it would
are.
be
They
totally
are.
different.
No, China is expanding.
economic,
Bro,
essentially.
China is expanding. Like what China now, when you look at it from a military perspective, when you look at it from a technological perspective, they're massively advanced, and they're advancing so much. And I don't want China to take past it, but this kind of understanding that you believe that China's not advancing in the way they are, and that they're not building an empire, is just
They're,
not based on
they're
reality.
certainly
They've-
trapping like third world s-holes with like horrible trade deals. That's
So that's building an
different than
empire.
like exercising military power.
Exactly. So
wherever we
you
want.
prefer the military way. They build the.
That's how empires should operate,
No,
you
but
know?
they're actually building an empire as well, but they're just doing it economically.
They're doing it in like
The United
fairly
States-
inconsequential places and very sloppily, like
and,
Sri Lanka.
And the United States, the United
I mean,
States
they've taken a lot of
absolutely is.
Africa, they've taken-
Look, all you have to do is look at how many countries have McDonald's to know that the United States did it economically. Right, like the United States has built
How
the,
many
the,
years has the US not been
liberal
involved since the
economic
World War-
order. What?
Since World War
Well,
II, how many years has the
Venezuela is one of the few countries that doesn't have a Rothschild's bank. Iran, another country that doesn't have a Rothschild's bank, and it's very important to these people that all these countries do have Rothschild banks. I mean, that's just a fact.
So my thing is this. You're right, by the way. But my thing is this. I want America to be in charge. I just want it to be done peacefully.
Well, I don't think it can.
I
And I
agree.
mean, I understand peace through strength and
But
deterrence.
China showed you a mode where it can be.
Well, the problem is
And
like
Trump is
if I-
kind of showing you a mode where it can
But
be,
if you-
because
if I-
Syria, he's kind of created an agreement now where he looks like he's bringing them into the empire. He's not have to kill
Yeah,
anyone.
and-
So
and-
Trump is starting to show in certain aspects you can
Well,
do
no,
it.
I
and the
take
way
your-
Trump negotiates these things is he sets up these convoluted
I knew when I
economic.
praised Trump, he's going to be on board.
Well,
thing
no,
is-
I'm saying I'm saying the way that Trump
Easy.
the way that Trump sets up these things is he sets up these trade deals, so then it makes it much more difficult for these countries to again like dissolve their relationships with each other because they're dependent on-
economically.
yeah, he's trying to
Yeah, but
develop like
peace-
economic cooperation.
peacefully.
And I think that's better.
I think it's way better than George Bush. George Bush's solution is just like bomb and then hope for the best.
Exactly.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.